Meeting with us today, Coach Bryan Till down here in the Raider locker room. Coach, first day of voluntary workouts. It's been about 5 months since you guys have been really able to do anything. So let's just start simple. How was it today? How good was it to see your kids?
It's really refreshing. I mean, you really remember why you got into this, why you're doing it. When you have the times with these guys and see the smiles on their faces. So it was great. All the coaches, I think, had a little bit of pep in their steps. Mm-hmm. It's not something you can really explain and replace. And really and truly, you probably took it for granted quite a bit until all this happened.
Yeah. Now, we've talked extensively through articles and different shows and stuff about the guidelines and the limitations and stuff that you go through. And this is just day one, so just kind of talk about the surrealness of that, and having to take the temperatures and thinking, hey, I never thought I might have had to do this before.
Right. Yeah, it's very different. It's not practice. Like we've said, it's really it's a chance to kind of work out outside. The kids are staying 6 feet apart in their groups, and the groups are no bigger than 5. And then those groups are 20 feet apart, and there's still only 25 guys. And it looks really strange to see such a small number of people on a football field when you're so used to seeing the large numbers, 22, just only even on the field at a time, against each other. So, and that's, now you're seeing that spread over basically what it amounts to be almost 3 football fields at a time. And so that's very different. Coaches did a great job adapting to the training of this and understanding what their requirements are with those groups, how to keep those kids spaced out, how to keep them safe. And Coach Haddiger has been instrumental as well in making sure we understand the process of checking temperatures, asking questions, doing the things we had to do to make sure that we're screening those guys even before they get on the field. So a lot of processes in place to make sure our kids are safe.
Now talk about the processes that you guys have set up in terms of just where, you talk about different groups and different locations,
Sure.
Just so fans know kind of how things are working and you guys are following this guidelines.
So we've got here at the high school, we'll have mainly varsity players, or I say varsity, 11th and 12th graders is really what we have. And normally we bring up some 10th graders up at some point, but we're not obviously even close to that right now. Right. So mainly juniors and seniors here. With our groups, and then we have mixed in some sophomores to equal those groups out. So what we'll have is we'll have 3 stations going, or 3 sites going at once. We're working at 9th grade academy, Richmond Senior, and Washington Street, and we'll have all 3 of those sites going at one time, and there'll be 25 guys at each of those sites. And not 25 players, but 4 to 5 coaches and the players to equal that number to 25. And those guys go in and check in at those places, run through their workout, and leave. Then at the high school, we'll have an additional 2 sessions after that. So we have basically the workout takes between 40 and 50 minutes. Mm-hmm. Those kids exit, and the other kids are checking in. And those kids will check in, and then they'll enter the field. So we never have more than 25 kids. Even though it's 3 practice fields, we only have 25 kids out there at a time. And so, or 25 total people out there at a time. So 3 sites, 3 rounds here. Next week we will get it to 2 rounds here at the high school because the defense will go to another location. We'll go up to the game field next week and work on the track up there so that we can be going with 2 of those groups going at the same time because they're far enough apart. Okay.
Now talk about the participation today in terms of, there's all this new paperwork to make sure that they're cleared, which is a good thing, but talk about, estimate number of guys who are out here today for Raider football.
We're probably looking at somewhere around 70 guys, 75 guys with all 5 groups. We have 100 on the paper. So that means, we were probably, in our younger groups are the ones we're missing more guys out of, the guys who don't understand or haven't had as much experience understanding the commitment it takes, and a lot of times we have a good chance to break those guys in the spring and summer, and we hadn't included our 9th graders yet, so that's just 10, 11, and 12.
Okay.
We haven't included our 9th graders yet. We'll start bringing them in separate days next week because normally we work with them in April and May, pretty much individually, getting them ready for the summer. We haven't had that individual time with those guys. We want to start kind of meeting them, getting a chance to work with those guys before we put them with any other 10th graders or anything like that. So right now, those guys will go a couple times next week. So next week's going to be a little bit different too. We're going to go 3 days with the groups we have now, and then we'll go with the ninth graders for 2 days next week, the rising ninth graders. So those things, and I keep saying rising because the school year hasn't started yet. It's still kind of confusing when you haven't worked with those guys.
Yeah, I'm still writing about rising seniors. I
Right.
mean, Caleb Hood's a senior,
Right.
but he's still a rising.
That's right.
We haven't gotten there yet.
So when it comes to the way that looks and how those guys are getting involved, that's going to change even a little bit more next week, and we're going to do our best to separate, develop, and work with those guys.
Now, on Tuesday at the school board meeting, obviously Richmond County Schools cleared for practice for all sports, and hopefully we get around to meeting with the soccer and the volleyball teams as well. But and then the next day there was kind of this domino effect of there were a lot of schools across the state that finally started working out. Do you think that Richmond's decision had any impact? Being a bigger school in the Sand Hills area.
I think that I know Moore County had already decided to start, so I don't think we had any impact on that decision directly. But I do know that when it comes to football, the history, the tradition you have here, with a situation like this, if people look and they go, well, Richmond, they really care about football a lot down there, and if they're not doing it, then we don't see a reason why we should either. Oh, those guys are okay. I think it's definitely a marker for a lot of folks to at least look at. I don't think they're going to make their decision based off of it, but I think it does. It's some information people take in. When they look at a place like this where football has such a rich tradition and people care about the game and what it means and brings for our community. I think that what we do does at least give guys an idea of a precedent.
Okay. To go back to the practice field or the workout field rather. What were some of the things that guys were doing today?
Everything we did today was basically body weight with one exception. We did a lot of sprints, a lot of jumps, plyometric type things, some change of direction, really working on some movement patterns we might utilize, when we play, some short bursts, some 20 to 30 yard sprints, some hills for just a little more acceleration work. We did, because they haven't had really any resistance training, we got 60 bands. With our older guys that we got out and allowed them to do some band work and push-up work too, just some strengthening, some resistance training. That was really one station. So most of what we did was movement oriented though, and even the bands was a band movement, a band pull.
Mm-hmm.
So it's still very movement oriented, even though it was resisted. So just trying to get them moving. I think some of them have been working out. They didn't, for the most part. I didn't see a lot of things that concerned me physically, which was a huge concern, not seeing them.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very proud of some of them, the way they looked. And hopefully this is a building block. Now, it's going to be a little different tomorrow because they'll be sore from this.
That's right.
And so we'll probably adjust tomorrow to make sure we're doing what's best for our guys.
Last question for you. A lot of positives in the last 48 hours for you guys, but also, news from Governor Roy Cooper that Phase 2 in the state's been extended another 5 weeks until September 11th, and then the high school association comes out today and says, they're formulating a plan hopefully by the 17th. Just your thoughts. I mean, I know everything's kind of speculative, but talk about the potential impact on you guys even farther down the road.
What it has to mean is it has to mean football season moves back, and that's what the association. Now they decided to say all fall sports at this point, but
Mm-hmm.
it has more of an impact on us because of the numbers and because of the contact. You do get contact in soccer also, but the number of guys on the field at a time, is a little bit higher for us. So, that's a huge impact. The great thing is now is we're still able to train with the guys. It is going to mean a shortened season of some kind, whether it's now in the fall or a shortened season if they move it kind of intermediary, as in between winter and spring sports or something like that. If they move it any of those times or they do it in the fall, it means that the season's going to be shortened somehow. How is that going to be? What's going to go on? We don't really know, and that's where a lot of speculation I'm not going to get into goes to. We do know it will be shortened, but we can still get out and work out, and that's, to me, if it is going to be shortened, having this time becomes that much more critical because now we do have time to get our guys in shape for whatever that season is. If it becomes intense, and let's say you don't have a bye week you would normally have to rest them, then you want them physically, prepared as much as possible. So at least still being able to train with them is to me pretty important for us to be able to do.
Also very important that sports are in some way back. Coach Bryan Till, big thank you for joining us today, and I hope to see you around a lot more than normal.
We do too.